Hey folks, we're now live. I'm Coach Mike. This is the MDM show, courtesy of MDM Canada Multimedia Group and sponsored by MDM Life Architects, where we build better bodies and we create better lives. So we have a special guest for you today. And before we bring him to the podcast here live, we have an interesting clip that he's done with some of his endeavors, and you might just like to see this. I got to share my screen here pretty quick, but his name is Jason McKenzie, and this will give you a little bit information about him and some of the stuff he's done. And here we go. See if we can get in there. Boom, boom, boom. So that's a little bit of some of the stuff Jason has done, which is some good stuff. So I'm going to go see if I can find him backstage here right now and see if we can find him. Just 1 second, see if he's there. There he is.
Hey, how is everybody? Good.
Jason, how's it going, buddy?
Hey,
Good to see you, bad.
How about you, man?
Awesome. Good to see you. So before we get into you, could you tell us a little bit about that clip that we just saw there?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I was doing a little education moment for a networking group and decided I'd shake it up a bit and be a motivational speaker. I'm not sure if everyone heard the audio or not, but taking and telling everybody they needed to be doing one-to-ones and a little classic recreation of some of the if you recognize from the old 90s and 80s, that was a bit of a clip I recreated there for everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So everybody, this is Jason McKenzie. He's a husband, he's a father, he's a follower of Christ, he's a businessman, he's an author. He's got some books going on. I think he's written one. He's got another one going on right now. And he is the host of the Small Business Big Visibility podcast. So I thought it'd be very cool to have Jason on the show here today so we can talk about his story, where he came from and how he got to where he is right now and all of the stuff in between. So Jason, how far back do you want to go to talk about where you got to where you're at today?
Well, I'd have to say my journey began before I made it into grade school. And the reason for that was there's a little department store right around the corner from my house, and they had an entire aisle dedicated to candy. And we're talking like, I don't know, it seemed like it was huge when I was a little kid. And I thought one day, I was like, man, how much money would it take to buy all the candy? And so I went home and I talked to my dad. I'm like, Dad, I got to be a basketball star. And he's like, well, why do you need to do that? So I can be rich, so I can buy all the candy. He's like, well, let me teach you something, son. Basketball stars make a lot of money, but there's another way. And so he started me on this idea of what's it mean to be a business owner? What do they do? How do they help people? How do you create value for people? And so that really at a super young age got me thinking about all those types of things. And when I was 11 years old, I started a lawn care business, hired my first employee. Shortly after that, my younger brother. We were taking care of about 20 lawns at our peak, and everyone just called us the Lawn Boys. Moved on from there. I started programming computers when I was 12. And then when I'm in college, I'm importing pearl jewelry out of the Philippines and selling it.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, I gotta build a website so I can sell these things. And the jewelry business kind of died, but the website side of things was really taking off at that time. And so that was kind of my journey from being a little kid interested all the way up to now running. I've been involved in, I don't even know, a handful of minimum, several companies, owned, invested in, partnershiped with, those kinds of things.
Cool. So that's like super interesting. So that's kind of how you got into the web design business. Again, if anybody sees this, you can reach Jason at the clicks down there, boise.net, and also smallbusinessbigvisibility.com, and the little ticker symbols we got going on down here. So how about diving into the book that you got going on? How did that all come to be, Jason?
Yeah, crazy story. So, a little while ago, so I got into web design for building that website for the jewelry business, but I knew at the same time there were some other things going on. I was like, man, I got to figure out how to get a website to move to the number one spot in Google. And that was a huge priority for me. And then I realized the world of search engine optimization, or SEO as most people called it,
Yeah.
back at that time when I was really getting into it, it was a dirty, scummy, yucky industry. Like, people that were too dishonest to sell used cars were selling SEO services. It just, and I realized how scummy it was, and so I distanced myself from that whole industry for a number of years. But I kept having friends come to me and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I just signed up with this company and they locked me in a 2-year contract. I'm really hoping it's going to go well." And then they tell me what they're doing and how much they're paying. I'm like, "Oh man." I was
Yeah.
like, somebody's got to do something, because this is just wrong. The way
Yeah.
that small business owners were getting taken advantage of, I was like, "Ah man, what could," and I was like, "Wait, I know SEO. I can do something." And so I started building a course. And another side story, I had a bit of a traumatic experience where I lost my ability to walk. And so I was trying to build this course, but I couldn't even stand up. So I'm laying flat like on my back. I'm like, well, I can't shoot video very well laying flat on my back. So I'd converted it and turned it into a book. And so I built the Small Business Big Visibility book, and it teaches local SEO. And at the
Cool.
end of each chapter, we go in and actually give people the homework they should do so that they can optimize their local presence without needing to go and hire an expensive agency or needing a bunch of back knowledge on how it all works. They just follow those steps and magic happens for them.
Yeah, that's cool. I was just talking to myself today because I talk to myself all the time about homework. Like I remember back at school, I hated freaking homework, but now with my business coach, he gives me homework, and I like the homework because it actually produces some results at the end of the day once I start to do my homework. So I like with your book there, you have homework at the end of each chapter that gives the readers homework to do, and then they can implement the stuff that you're teaching them, which I think is pretty sweet. So then, yeah, we met in when did we meet? In February
It's
at
February. Yeah.
Funnel Hacking Live. That
Yep.
was like pretty sweet. Can you tell us a little bit how long you've been in how you found Russell Brunson's world first of all, and then a little bit of like how that's been for you getting into Russell's world?
Yeah, for sure. So I have an interesting journey in that I grew up in Boise, Idaho, and Russell
Yeah.
went to Boise State to wrestle for part of his college career. And so he was wrestling at Boise State, and my brother was working with his wife while Russell's going to school. So I'm hearing these little snippets about Russell this, Russell that, and then I heard, like, because he's a local guy, you hear all the rumors and things, and I'm hearing like, oh yeah, this bad thing happened, or man, things are going bad for him and going good for him, and it's just up and down, up and down. I was like, man, this guy sounds like him, like it's a crazy mess.
Yo yo.
And so I kind of just set him on the shelf for a number of years, and I knew who he was, aware of him, all that kind of thing. But then I read his book when it came out, and the first book I had a couple of things I was like, I don't know if I agree with that, and so I put him back on the shelf. And then he came out with the second edition of his book, and he cleaned up a bunch of the things I kind of had doubts on. I was like, holy cow, where this guy was when he was in college to where he is now at the
Yeah.
time I was reading the books again, I was like, totally different world. Like, all the things I had concerns with, he resolved, figured out. Now he's an extreme professional that's probably done more and helped more people in that marketing, and especially the online marketing space, than probably pretty much anybody at this point, with the software and programs and education that he's built. Pretty incredible stuff that he's done.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, because I always relate to him as the potato gun guy, because that's he started.
Yeah.
He needed to get some money to for his wife or to buy something somehow, and he needed to get it done, so he started with a potato gun, and then he talks about how you just implement imperfectly, take imperfect action, because a lot of people, and I've done it myself too. It's like everything's got to be perfect, everything's got to be like this, everything's got to be prim and proper,
Yeah.
and then you never never get anywhere. So just throw it out there and then tweak it as you go. Once you'll get feedback, or it's like, oh, I forgot to do this, or I didn't do this, or I should have done this, or yeah. So that's pretty interesting. And then with all the people that you've interviewed on your small business big visibility podcast, how many people have you? I think you've done a fair amount of podcasts because you set yourself a goal to do that, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we hit our 1 year mark just recently. And at the 1 year mark, we released episode 260 of the podcast. So in 1
Sweet.
year, generated that many, a number of interviews. I think we're close to around 40 interviews that we did in the year's time.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what would be the like the most, how can I phrase this? The most interesting interview you've done, or the most colorful interview you've done, or the one that you remember the most from some of the stuff that he or she might have dropped while you were doing the interview? Is there
You
anyone,
know,
is there one that stands out, I guess, more than anything else?
I've had a ton of really fun interviews where people get to just go in and tell their story. I mean, we had a ton of fun on yours. One of the ones that stood out to me, and it's probably one of the most interesting, was I got to interview George Visker. And for anyone who doesn't know who he was an NFL player and had several traumatic brain injuries. And
Wow.
he was in lawsuit against the NFL and against the insurance company with the NFL for over 20 years,
Wow.
and was homeless for a while. Just like it
Wow.
ripped and destroyed his life, but he never gave up. And that, like, I don't think I've met anybody that fought as hard as he did, as long as he did, because I think he said he had, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think he said
Yeah.
he's had 9 brain surgeries or 7, or it's an absurd number of surgeries, and
Wow.
most people don't survive more than one. And
Yeah.
so this guy's a fighter.
Yeah, never giving up. That's another good business tip, because I find that some of the people that I've dealt with, and even with myself, it's like I almost figure like, why am I doing this, or why do I have to put in this effort, or why do I have to put in this so much work? Because it's like never giving up, continuously going for whatever dream that you have. That's part of the thing that makes people, in my experience, succeed, because you got to fail. They talk about failing forward. You have to fail, and you have to be okay with failing, rejection and failing and all those things. And then once you get past that threshold, then you break through, and then there's another set of things, obstacles you have to get into. So talking about goals and obstacles. So you had a goal to set a certain amount of episodes in your first year and you hit it. What were the biggest obstacles to the goal that you have set for doing the amount of episodes that you did in that first year? So what roadblocks or obstacles or potholes did you come across?
The first ones was just like, is it even worth it? Before I started, I was like, am I just going to waste all my time? Is this just a waste? And
Yeah.
so all that self-doubt, and I gave myself some time to work through those thoughts, and to accept that, no, I'm truly going to commit to this. I'm not going to halfway commit. Either I'm going to do it or I'm not. And so giving myself enough time to work through that mentally, get myself 100% committed, that was the first obstacle. Second obstacle was figuring out, all right, if I'm going to do this, there's a certain amount of structure I have to know. Like, I have to know how to record. I have to know how some of these things work, how to put the podcast up. So that took a little bit of time to figure out and to learn all that as well. So I gave myself enough like runway room at the start to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that I wasn't going to fail. And then I knew it was going to be really hard. So I recorded a small stack of episodes before I ever launched to make sure that I had enough of a repository so that when the road bumps came and when the bumps hit me and somebody comes and gives me the jab and the punch, I'm
Yeah.
recovering from whatever it is,
Yeah.
it didn't stop me and mess me up on my goal. So I gave myself a little bit of padding before I started too, to make sure I wasn't going to mess up along that way.
Yeah. That's important to give yourself a little bit of a break and to kind of know what you're in for before you get in there. And then yeah, because it's, I find in everything I've done, it's like there's always distractions that come up, or these people need this, or this happens with technology, or something happens in your life, that all these, anytime I've set a goal or other people that have dealt with have set a goal, then that's when all the competition and all the distractions, and then you have to like alleviate all those different distractions and continue to focus on the goal.
Oh
you've
yeah,
set for yourself
absolutely.
for sure. So books, you got the podcast going on, you got the web design companies got going on. So out of all these things that you have going on, what is your favorite one? Or is it the book that you like writing the books, or do you like doing the podcast, or do you like the web design, or which one is
Oh yeah.
like nearest and dearest to your heart, or are they all kind of the same, or are they kind of all mixed together? Which is the most fun?
So
If they're yeah.
okay. The most exciting thing for me is within my web design journey, I went from building a lot of complicated sites that only would allow me to work on them, and the customers only trusted me to work on them. And so I built myself this amazing business, I thought, but that
Hmm.
business was such that it was really, instead of a business, it was a cage that owned me. And so
Yeah.
I built a terrible business. It was horrible. And when I came to terms with that, I wanted to go on a vacation, and I had a couple of employees at the time, and one of my customers said, "You can't. What if something goes wrong?" I said, "Well, I have employees." And they said, "We need you." And I thought, that's not going to work. And so I took some time to rebuild the entire company and to figure out how businesses can run without the owner, without the founder. And it took me a bit of time to really go through and learn and re-educate myself and become an expert in that space. But that's been the most exciting thing for me, is to be able to build a business that can keep running when I'm not there. I have a great team, I have processes, I have systems in place, we have tools, we have software, all these different things that come together to build that. And that really leads me to what excites me now, is sharing that with other people. And that's actually where my second book comes in, because I have a good buddy that recently sold all three of his businesses, and he hadn't needed to go into work for a long time. Like, he's just kicking around like, oh man, what do I want to do today? I don't know. And he just did what he wanted to, because he
Hmm.
had done that same thing with three separate companies, sold them all off. We're now co-authoring this book, and it goes through for anybody who got where I was, or is maybe heading in that direction where they're like, oh, I've built the business wrong, or I don't know how to build it the right way. We're
Yeah.
literally giving them step-by-step instructions of, first you have to do this, then you move to this next step, and move here and move here. And before you know it, you've transformed from where you were to having that time and money freedom that business owners are often looking for.
Yeah, that's cool. And you talk about time freedom, and at the beginning of the show here, I introduced you as you're a husband and a father. So time, you have 24 hours in a day. How do you balance the time with your family and your spouse and your extracurricular activities? How do you go about doing that?
Well, yeah, I've got several siblings. If anybody sees my Facebook page, my parents had 8 kids and then adopted 9 more. So
Wow.
I'm one of 17 kids, and so big family at that level. I only have 6 kids, so I feel like I have a small family after that. But everybody hears 6 kids and they're like, "Holy cow!" But
Yeah.
the important thing from my perspective is to be intentional, because everyone only has 24 hours a day.
Hmm.
And if we spend a ton of time wasting it, we never accomplish what we truly want to. And so being intentional, and first and foremost, what am I trying to accomplish in life? What is it that my wife and I are trying to do together? How do I support her and her goals? And then each of my kids, they have specific directions that they want to go in life. And so making sure that I make myself available to assist them with what they're trying to do. And so really it's a matter of understanding the big vision, maybe not every detail, but that big vision, and then taking intentional steps to move towards that big vision. That's the secret that I've found that really makes a big difference. And then celebrating when we accomplish one of those goals that we set along that way.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned goals, you mentioned steps. Do you write these down every week or every month, or do you even write them down, like your specific goal and the action steps that are associated with that goal, or do you just know it kind of intuitively or in your mind what that goal is, or what you need to do each day to kind of get yourself towards that goal?
Yeah, so I am a proponent of both. You have to write it down, and you have to keep it in your mind.
Yeah.
So our kids writing down what they want to accomplish in any given time frame. And so over the summer, they all wrote down what they were hoping to do or accomplish or create or build. And same with us. And over on my wall, you can't see it over here, but I have a sheet of paper that has a goal and the date I set the goal and the date I accomplished the goal. And so I
Yeah.
can keep track of each one of these major milestones that I'm trying to accomplish in my life. And I've just filled up one sheet here. And so I'm going to move to the next sheet of new goals of what I'm trying to do and accomplish and become in my life. So writing it down is critical, but then also keeping it, like you say, fresh in your mind so that
Yeah.
you know this is where I'm going, because then you can set little action items and pick a couple of action items and then relentlessly chase those until they're done. And then you move to your next priority and your next priority and your next priority each day.
And you mentioned big vision, like the big vision. So I know it's important to set goals. Tony Robbins talks about it. Russell talks about it. Dean Graziosi talks about it. Everyone talks about setting goals and action plans. But once you've accomplished your goals, you have to hurry up and set a whole bunch of extra goals on top of those ones with the deadlines and new action plans, because then I find I've gotten complete. I can't even remember sometimes where I'm at or what I'm doing, because I've achieved all the goals I've set. So it's like, okay, then I've become complacent. I'm like, okay, I have to kind of I have to keep leveling up, or it's like, because okay, I've done everything now. I have to keep going. Do you find like that you kind of become complacent sometimes? Or you just keep going, or do you have these goals already preset in your mind? Once these are done, you got these to do, and then you just keep climbing.
Yeah, so I think that that's an amazing question. And when I set goals, there's very hard and fast goals that of what I'm going to accomplish, given a time frame or given a certain amount of work. But then there's these big vision. Who am I trying to become? What am I trying to achieve? How am I going to make a difference? And so every person should have these directional type goals that aren't necessarily something that you're going to achieve in a short period of time. And I
Yeah,
think Elon Musk did a good job of illustrating that. Love him or hate him, wherever you're at, I don't care on that. But what he's done is he said, I'm going to put people on Mars.
yeah.
Like, that's my goal. He's not going to wake up and accomplish that very quickly. And
No,
there's a
no.
lot of twisting this way and that way and this way and that way, trying to figure out. And so he has all these short-term goals. He has that big vision that's going to
Hmm.
take him a lifetime, and he's going to chase and push that. But each one of us can do that same sort of thing. What's my big vision for life? What's my big vision for family? What's my big vision for whatever, that relationship, your business? And then what are a number of steps you can take? And then once you're starting to accomplish those steps, it is critical, like you say, to go in and reevaluate and say, what's the next set of steps that move me towards that big vision?
Yeah, and then once you start taking those steps and you have those goals, because sometimes people have to have, they don't have to, but I find the mindset of they think it's impossible. Like if you're the Wright brothers, when they started to build these planes and the planes didn't, people think you're nuts. People think you're crazy. People think you're like totally out to lunch. So you have to have like a pretty good brain going on up here to say, no, this is going to happen. And this is what we're going to do. Cause everyone's going to say, no, no, you're not. You're nuts. You're crazy. You need to go to the loony bin with you. Like this doesn't exist right now. So people that have a vision, like you say, you have a vision of where you want your life to go. How difficult is it to take all that like negative energy on sometimes for people saying that you can't do that or that's impossible? Why would you even think about doing that? Why don't you become a little bit more realistic?
Yeah. And I think that so many people face that problem when they start out on this kind of a journey. But the reason for that is the people that they've surrounded themselves with are a picture of who they were prior to setting those goals. And as soon as you start to change, they look at you, and they don't do this necessarily at a conscious level, but they're looking at you and they're saying, you're not the same person anymore. Are we going to still be able to hang out on the weekends? Are we still
Yeah.
going to get together and do those things that we used to do? And you're like, well, I have this vision. And they're like, forget the vision. Come be who you used to be. And we have to
Yeah.
make this decision of, am I going to go back to that person I've been? Or am I going to accept the moment that that I have this journey to take and I want to
Hmm.
be on this journey? And when people say, burn the ships, I'm going to go on my new journey, sometimes some of those friendships get a little strained and you have people saying things to you like that. And
Hmm.
it's usually the friends that hurt the most, because if you don't know somebody and they're saying crazy stuff about you, like, most people don't care that much. And if you do care, probably you don't have enough belief in yourself. And so you're looking out to other people to get that validation that you are of value. So I'd say one of the first goals you should have is to figure out how to believe in yourself more so that you don't need to hear the voices of people you don't know validating you. But if you can burn the ships, some of those old friendships, they're going to not, you don't have to lose the friends, but they're going to kind of move a little bit further from you in distance. But you're going to get new friends that match that new person that you're becoming as you go on that journey. So you're going to gain a whole new group of friends that are going to encourage you and push you along. And
Hmm.
that's the excitingness. So many people focus on what they're losing and forget to focus on what they're gaining.
Yeah, that's like amazing stuff right there, Jason. That's like so good. So you even said you have to become a new person and creating a new identity to be able to do the things that you need to do going forward. And you can lose some people along the way, and they might not be in your vision or in your long-term plan, even though they've been friends with you for 5, 10, 15, 30 years. They're still doing the same things that aren't moving them forward, even though you'd like to take them with you, and they'll
Yeah.
still always be friends. But then you're going to put yourself into a new environment and a new peer group of, you have to level yourself up in order to get there. And I think, and you said you have to believe in yourself. How do you go about believing in yourself when you can't really see the vision of what you want to have, or you're not that person yet, or to believe that this is actually possible for somebody? How can someone, how do you go about believing in yourself when you're not quite there yet?
That is an amazing question. And it's not something that happens immediately. You don't wake up, doubt, like go to bed doubting and wake up the next morning and be like, yes, I'm there. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen like that. It's these little teeny things. And so, to me, one of the best ways you can do this is you set that vision and you may doubt it. And the reason you doubt it is you know who you are today can't accomplish that. And
Hmm.
you have to be able to accept that and say, it's okay. I know I can't do that today. But when you put that little word on the end, today, you're now giving yourself room that you could maybe accomplish it in the future. So that's one of the tricks. The next trick is if you set for yourself some really small goals up front. We're talking about, like, maybe you want to have a goal that you're going to be, I don't know, a rock star. And your first goal is to go buy a guitar, right?
Rockstar,
There
yeah.
we go. And so you go buy a guitar and you're like, yes, I accomplished my first goal. I'm not like, and you start
Yeah.
accepting that you're making progress. The second thing you
Momentum.
really have to do is accept that you're not going to be perfect. I saw, I wish I knew who said it. I saw it the other day. They said, quit telling me I'm lucky because I failed more times than you tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is the definition of success. I loved it. Tony Robbins says that you have a goal and you go for the goal, and when it doesn't work, whatever you try, it doesn't work, you change your approach. And you change your
Hmm.
approach. You change your
Hmm.
approach. You change your approach. You just keep going and going and going and going. Thomas Edison is the famous story, whether it's true or not, who knows? But he tried over 1,000 times, is the story, to
Yeah.
create the light bulb. And he didn't give up. And eventually he got there. And that's the same thing. We have to accept that who we are we can't do it today, but today gives us the qualifier that maybe in the future we can. And we have to take those small steps, and we have to give ourselves grace that we know we're going to mess up. And that's, messing up is a critical and important and requirement to
Yeah.
be able to succeed in the future.
And you mentioned, yeah, the never giving up. And Tony Robbins says, just change your approach. And you have to, because not everybody can do this. You have to have that burning desire in your mind and in your belly and your heart that I'm doing this no matter what and how long it takes. And a lot of people don't have that burning desire. They're just kind of like, yeah, if I try once or twice and it doesn't work. Napoleon Hill in his Think and Grow Rich books is the number one things is you have to have a burning desire in the depths of your being that you're going to do this. You don't know how long it's going to take, but you know that the actions that you need to take. But again, you don't know how long it's going to take, but you know the actions, but then eventually it happens over when you least expect it. So never quitting, never giving up, and to have the long-term vision of what it is that you want, and then kind of maneuvering with all the different lifestyle changes you need to make. You have to become a new person. You have to take risks. You have to drop some of the old behaviors, the old habits, the old self, and then put yourself in a new environment, which is it's all uncertain. You don't have any idea what's going to happen. And
Yeah.
then it's like, is this ever going to really happen? And you have to keep going and keep going and keep going. And then it's a battle. For me, it's a battle, and I'm sure with everybody else, it's a battle every day to like see where this is going to take you. But it's fun because it's kind of like it's an adventure. Talk about the hero's journey of you're just like this normal, everyone's just a normal person. And then you get the call to duty. It's like, well, this is what I want, but I don't know if I can do it. So it's like, no, I'm not cut out for this. But then something pushes you and pulls you towards that, just like the Lord of the Rings with Frodo and Samwise Gamgee. He's like the most unlikely person that would ever go on the journey for the ring, Frodo and Samwise. But these are the most, out of all these guys that have all the weaponry and the muscles and the fighting abilities, it was Frodo and Samwise that got through. And that's the hero's journey, because anybody can get called, and then you just have to, like, the people will show up in your life when you need them the most. And that's exactly what happened in the Lord of the Rings. And that's kind of what happens in our lives if we believe that, but we have to keep going.
Right. And you look at who they became. I think
Yeah,
that story really illustrates it. They, at the start of the journey, they were not the same person as they were once they accomplished. Like, they're totally different. You can't even measure them on the same scale. And
Yeah.
you also have to see they paid a price. And that price was paid over and over and over. And as soon as they paid one price, they're now paying a new price and a new price and a new price. Just the time alone that they illustrate that it took them to go to accomplish their goal was massive. And the bigger our goal is, the more it's going to require of us in order to accomplish it. But we don't have to pay the whole price at once. We just have to take a few little steps forward.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, if you can relate to all that's why they talk about all these different stories and all these different movies where it's just like a normal person, and they get the call or they get the hint or something happens. It's like, is this me? Do I really have to do this? Am I pulled to do this? And that's where, if people have a belief in a higher power, they believe in God, they believe in Christ, they believe it is whatever they believe. That's the higher calling that I believe every human being on the planet has, that calling. But it's a matter of whether we're going to like actually heed the voice and take action on the calling. Because it's like, I want to be that person, but I don't want to be that. And that's where the the fear takes over sometimes. And Russell, uses the elephant and the couple monkeys and the lizard about the fears that hold everybody back and the ghosts that hold everybody back. It's like, I'm afraid of success and I'm afraid of failure. So I think I'll just sit here and kind of watch what everybody's doing. And that's a whole,
that's such an interesting concept, because so many people are full of fear.
Yeah.
And the other thing to recognize is fear is normal. It's baked into our brains, hardwired in. And if we go back and look at it, some people call it the reptilian brain, but I like to call it more like the subconscious. It's there to protect us. And so you have the subconscious that's going out and it's saying, okay, my job as the subconscious is I'm going to keep your heart beating. I'm going to make sure you're breathing. We're going to make sure you know when you need to eat, when you need to sleep, all those things. But then my job also as the subconscious is to be processing all the data that comes in and alert you, the conscious mind, of danger. And so the subconscious is doing all the processing. It processes way more information than we ever can at a conscious level. And it comes in and it says, alert, watch out. You might fail. If you fail, you might have some social stigma. If you have social stigma, you'll be an outcast. If you're an outcast, no one's going to like you. If no one likes you, your life's in shambles. We can't afford that. You can't afford to try this. Go sit in the corner. It's safe.
And
we're like, oh man, I just wanted to learn how to cook. And I'm terrified. But when we can say, okay, thank you, body. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. And I was talking to a guy a little while ago. He said, when you recognize your body's being full of fear, you go to that spot, you find where the fear resides, whether it's in your belly, your heart, or wherever. You go there and you say, thank you. I appreciate that you're trying to keep me safe. I don't need you to keep me safe from that anymore. And that helps. It may not solve it entirely, but it's going to help reduce that fear for people when they're first taking those first steps on that journey, so that the body says, oh, okay, I'm going to move on and protect you in other ways instead of trying to protect you from failing here.
Yeah, you kind of have to ease yourself and say, pretend you're the grown-up self when the younger self, and it's going to be okay. We can get you through. It's going to be okay. And then you talk about the subconscious mind, and that's mental programming. And that it's kind of like subliminal messages where people on the earth get programmed subconsciously, and then they create the patterns subconsciously. It's like, we don't know how to drive a car for the first time, and we have to know where the clutch is down on our, is that the clutch or is that the brake or is that the gas pedal? And then you have to think about every movement, or where's the gear shift, and like, yeah, the speedometer. When you're first going to a car, you don't know anything about what you're doing, but eventually you program your subconscious mind with all the different things you need to do, and you can just drive somewhere and you can be thinking about a bunch of different things, but if your pattern knows where to drive to work, or to drive to the store, you can just drive there on autopilot, and that's where the subconscious mind gets programmed with our patterns, and people don't realize it. So I think that's what we need to do to program our subconscious mind properly and with like confidence. And that's what I think we're watching the proper videos and watching the proper audios, and that's what your buck does for people in the SEO world and the big visibility, small business, big visibility podcast, like programming your subconscious mind with all the right stuff. It's just like nutrition. If you watch the news and a bunch of violence and all that crap, and that's why people are so afraid, because they're totally afraid if they're programmed for fear. And then, you need techniques to kind of break those patterns to say that, no, this person has overcome this and this person's overcome this. And we got new data, new information says this is okay to do this. And people need to break the subconscious programming in our world somehow. Because it's how do people do that? How do people do that?
I just read an article this morning that I believe NPR came out with, and they said I don't remember who did the research. Someone did research that said if people are feeling negative, and negative means fearful, doubtful, hopeless, any of those kinds of emotions, anxious, any of that, if they take and they watch 3 to 5 minutes of somebody else, a normal Joe, accomplishing something that looked difficult, looked hard, hear someone else's story, get inspired and have something inspirational. All it takes is 3 to 5 minutes, and it will lift them for an entire day. And it does it better than scroll. They tested it against people meditating. They did it against people watching comedy. They did that against people watching negative things like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And they did a control group where they did nothing.
Yeah.
And the people who watched someone else accomplishing and someone else succeeding and that inspirational material for only 3 to 5 minutes had far better success and a better mindset. So it's really like you said, our bodies need the nutritious foods. We could eat Twinkies all day and we're going to end up like a disaster. Not the way anyone wants to be. But the same for our brain and our soul. If we're binging this diet of proverbial garbage all day, and we're doom scrolling on social media, comparing ourselves, and now it doesn't happen at a conscious level, it happens at a subconscious level. We compare ourselves to anything we're seeing. And so if we're looking at all these people and we're getting more and more hopeless, we're feeding ourselves the wrong thing. If we do the exact opposite and we feed inspirational ideas and new concepts and people that are encouraging you either directly or through their own accomplishments, it shifts everything. And it's not something that'll happen overnight. If you're 25 years old and you fed yourself negative for 25 years, it's going to take more than a day or two to break that cycle, but it can happen. Yeah,
it's just like, it kind of opened. If you're 100 pounds overweight, it took you time to get that 100 pounds. You can't. But we live in such a quick fix society that people want results like so fast. And they're all the advertising out there says, oh, you can have this in 7 days or in 30 days or whatever it may be. You have to totally, like you say, transform your whole lifestyle, transform who you are. And over a long given period of time, you can make a decision like, I'm deciding right now that I'm going to start doing this. You can make a decision in like 1 second. And that's where it changes everything. But Tony Robbins says you can make a decision in a second. I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that again. And then you start taking actions that are going to be in congruence with the goal that you've taken. But the old patterns will creep back in. And then that's where you have to recognize the old pattern or the old way of thinking or the old environment you're putting yourself in. I can't do that anymore. This is what I have to do. And that's where some people, old environments and old people, I can't hang out with you guys anymore. I can't go and do that anymore because that doesn't serve me and it doesn't serve anybody else. And that's a process over time where it's like, you have to talk to yourself in your mind to make sure that you're making those choices correctly. And then and you have to forgive yourself too. Be forgiving enough to say, if you screw up, you always can get back and keep going. It's not an all or nothing game where if you screw up once, it's all over. You just have to keep going.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep.
It's like, it's very interesting how the whole, but I believe people can design whatever life they want to design, but I don't know if people believe that they can do that, or if it's even possible. They're just on autopilot.
Yeah.
So how would someone design their own life if they want to? I guess, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I think that one of the first things people need to do is they just need to have a spark. Like, what is it that inspired you? What got you excited? Recognize those things and then just start writing them down. That's a super easy way. Like, oh man, I get so excited when I go for a walk, when I talk to the neighbors, when I ride my bicycle, and just make a list. What is it that excites you? What is it that drains you? And why do those drain you?
Mm-hmm.
And the things that drain you may actually be things that you think are making you happy. And here's
Yeah.
what I mean by that. So many people watch traditional media, and all the traditional media is designed to numb your brain to
Yeah.
a state where you're not thinking.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, I'm happy. Oh, all my problems are gone. Well, no, you're not actually happy. You're just numb. And so if you're numb, you're actually going to have all the problems come right back. What probably would make you happy is to either overcome one of those problems or to realize one of those problems isn't actually a problem. So either changing your behavior and or changing your mindset, that's going to make you happy, because then you're unloading some of those rocks that you're carrying around in this
Oh, yeah.
giant backpack on your back of beating yourself up and telling yourself you're not good enough and you can't accomplish and you can't do. And you just keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier until finally you're crushing yourself. So you go to numb yourself with whatever your numbing agent of choice is.
Yeah, that's cool. We could talk for hours and hours on a whole bunch of different topics regarding this for sure. But yeah, it's, people have to like start, no matter where you're at, whatever you want to do, you just have to start and you'll figure it out as you go. Yeah, and you gotta read the right books, hang around the right people, hang around the right environments, and yeah, think as many of the right thoughts as you can, and eventually you build momentum, and it's quite interesting. Yeah. Anything else? If I forgot to, what else have I forgot to ask you? If you could, if you could remember. Yeah, we covered a lot of different topics there for sure.
Yeah, we've been all over the place. One of the things that kind of inspired me, and going back to my podcast really quick, was my goal for the podcast. It's not actually about SEO. I named it the same thing as my book just because I love that concept that you could have a small business, but you can still have this big visibility. And the visibility may be from a search engine optimization perspective that other people see you. But then on the flip side, your big visibility might be within your own brain. And it might be that this podcast has given you this big vision of what you're hoping to accomplish. And so the big visibility is actually on the podcast side. Our entire goal is to give people little nuggets each day so that they think a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And like, we're podcasting Monday through Friday. Most of them are short episodes just for that purpose, because I was in a place not that many years ago where I honestly believed if I got into a business, it was going to be worse off. I had that bad of a mindset. And I told a good buddy of mine, I was like, man, I think I might be cursed. Yeah. And I was dead serious. I was like, if I'm getting involved, it's going to start having problems. I'd had a couple of times I got involved in businesses. There was nothing that I did. Like, there wasn't a Jason stepped in and it went bad because of Jason. It just was, it went bad and I was present. And it happened a few times. And I thought, am I cursed? Am I like, something's wrong with me? And so I really had this negative mindset where I believed I couldn't and I believed I can't. And I thought, whoa, what am I doing to myself? This belief that I couldn't and that I can't. I literally was putting myself in a box and saying, I'm not safe to step outside the boundaries I'm in right now. I can't change. I can't do. I can't accomplish. And so that idea was, if I've done that to myself, and I at the time had what most people would be pretty envious of as far as a business goes. And if I'm putting myself in that box, how many other people are doing that same thing? And so it became almost a mission for me to lift other people up and help other people to recognize that the best thing they can do is shift their perspective and shift their actions. And so that's where a lot of that podcast came from. That's where this idea for the new book came from. Like, how can I go out? And my goal is, it has been, in the past, I want to help 100,000 small business owners elevate the way they live so that they can have a bigger impact on the world. And I thought, why only 100,000? I'm going to help 1,000,000. So my new goal is, how can I go out and help 1,000,000 business owners have a better life? Because if I help 1,000,000, the impact, the ripple effect out into the world will be astronomical because of the good they can do, because they are now freed to go out and accomplish their dreams instead of being chained to their own mind and the limitations that they had either in their mind or the way they built their business.
Yeah, exactly. I just got the visual of that when Russell Brunson was, I think he was doing one of his funnel hacking lives where he puts, and they used to do it with candles, but not as much anymore, but they do it with the lights of the cell phones. If you're one light, and then once you touch another person, then they turn on their light. And then once you touch another person, so one spark or one light turns into like 1,000,000 lights. And that's just what you just said. Your podcast, you're the one light, and then you touch another light, and that touches another light. And that's how you spread all the goodness across the whole entire planet, and just getting people to believe that they are the light, and then everybody just shares their light. And that's how a mass movement kind of spreads across the whole entire earth, starting with the mindset of the people that you can do it, you can live your dreams, you can do this, but people think but then you just can't, you have to program this the way it's supposed to be. So yeah, coming to the end here, if you were to give everybody one golden nugget or one word of wisdom or one thing that you would say that is the most important thing to success in life and business and all the stuff that goes along with it, what would that one thing be that if you were to tell somebody today?
Oh man. One summary would be, I would say, before you doubt your dreams, doubt your doubts.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Before you doubt your dreams, doubt your doubts.
Yeah, because so
That's
many
that's
people,
powerful. Yeah.
yeah, they look and they're like, oh, I could never do that. You're right. You just told yourself you can't, you're not going to accomplish it. But if you said, you doubt that doubt,
Mm-hmm.
and my doubt is I can't do it. So now I'm doubting that. So now I'm believing again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you just totally shifted and moved into a new paradigm where you
Yeah.
can and you will. And when you can and you will, you'll find a way.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Exactly. That's like powerful, powerful, powerful. Getting people to believe that they can and they will, and then taking the action steps. Cool. So we're gonna go. So how can people get a hold of you, Jason? I'm gonna put the little ticker on here. If people want to get a hold of you, it's Jason
If they want to
McKenzie.
get a hold of me, they can go on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So on Facebook, Real Jason McKenzie, Instagram, Real Jason McKenzie. Also, I've got BoiseWeb.net if they're interested in web design services. We help people with web design and hosting all the time. Smallbusinessbigvisibility.com. Also on YouTube is Small Business Big Visibility. We've got a ton of great content on there. And if you want to shoot me a message, please do. You can find you can contact me through any of those platforms, and happy to help people however they need it.
Cool. So you're on Facebook under Jason McKenzie. You're on LinkedIn. You're on YouTube. You're all over the place. You got your website, www.boiseweb.net. And then go to smallbusinessbigvisibility.com to get you there too. And they can just send you a DM, they can comment or like, and then they can get a hold of you, have a conversation, and see how you can go about putting them into the correct direction for whatever they need help with. Cool.
Yeah, and the podcast is available everywhere. Yeah, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere that there's podcasts. Pandora, on and on, Apple, it's there.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate your time. I think we went a little bit longer than we can talk for another couple of hours, but yeah, maybe. Yeah, because you can venture off into so many different directions once you're talking about on one topic, because there's so many things to it, but it is pretty simple once you get going with it, for sure. I love this stuff.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate you letting me come on your show.
Yeah, Thank you very much, sir. And we'll see you next time. Again, if you guys want to get a hold of Jason, it's awesome. Small business, bigvisibility.com. He'll put you on the podcast, ask you a bunch of questions, help with you with your business, getting your big visibility. And if you need some help with web design and all that kind of good technology stuff, Jason's your guy. And he even sounds like he knows business coaching and mental coaching and all that stuff as well. So he can help you with all that other fun stuff as well. So yeah, he's definitely somebody you want to hook up with. Again, he's on the social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, wherever he is. Jason McKenzie, thank you very much, sir. And we'll talk soon.
Thanks.
See you, man.